So when we start to understand that there's a no thing, this no thing moves into the imagination of a human being. Any idea that's accepted through the imagination will then move into the subconscious mind of the human being. Once it's in the subconscious mind, it'll alter the behavior. That person will then release a force, attractive force, and everything will start to move into it. So what people want to understand, how to create different results, is it all starts with building a new image.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we blend rock solid tips with a little bit of magic. I'm Renee Bowen, your host, life and business coach, and professional photographer at your service. We are all about getting creative, diving into your business, and playing with manifestation over here. So, are you ready to get inspired and have some fun? Let's dive in. Happy May 1st, guys. Welcome back to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I am your host, Renee Bowen. This week, I have Dave Conway on the show, and Dave is kind of a badass in the coaching industry. So this is a really fun episode. We talk a lot about manifestation. Dave's coached over 25,000 entrepreneurs and coaches worldwide. He's considered one of the world's best mindset mentors working today. As the founder of Conway Consulting, Dave helps people discover the power within their minds to turn that power into results, unlike anything they've ever experienced. And all of this and much more has been made possible through the study and practice of manifestation. And so that is what we are talking about today in sort of a different way than you maybe have heard it before. But I know you're going to get a lot out of it because he's such a super interesting guy. And I loved our conversation. I think that this is really timely. We are getting into, I don't know about you, but the last week or so has definitely felt more like movement, life, energy. I know there's a lot going on in the world and there's not a lot, we can do about all that. But I do feel like there's some positive change on the horizon. And maybe that's just the optimist in me, but I refuse to change. I'm going to continue looking for the good because, sometimes that's all we can do. I just feel like, the energy shifted a little bit, and maybe it's the weather. Maybe things are just finally starting to get a little bit warmer, and, maybe we're seeing a little bit more sun. Even out here in California, like we have had the wettest spring. I just saw something not long ago that said we've gotten more rain than Seattle this year, which is insane. We're out of the drought, so that's fun. And we have some amazing wildflowers and some gorgeous green, which is not going to stick around, I know. But I'm trying to appreciate all of that. And even all the rain days that I have had to reschedule for my clients, that's not been fun. It's been so hard, like so many sessions I've had to just reschedule because of rain. It's crazy. But yeah, I hope that you guys are feeling optimistic. I always love to hear from you. So if you want to chat with me, hit me up on Insta at Renee Bowen. Shoot me a DM. I am always happy to chat with you there. Sometimes my little robot Renee will answer for me, but I promise I will respond, the real me as well. Just a quick little blurb. I am going to be changing some things up with regards to my membership Elevate pretty soon. So, and I'm not going to really announce those changes yet, but they're coming. If you are wanting to join Elevate, I would go ahead and do it now because I'm going to be changing some things and possibly raising the price. And if you join before that happens, you're locked in to the rate that it is now, which is only $49 a month. So, if it's been on your list and you've been thinking about it, now's the time. That information is listed for you below in the show notes. It's an incredible value. You guys, you get coaching from me, you get monthly content. We talk so much about marketing and you get access to me a lot. And it's only $49 a month. So definitely check it out. I will put that below for you guys. And I'm also going to be changing the upper level of Elevate, which is called Evolution. And that is going to be shifting a little bit too. And enrollment is going to start soon for that. So put those things on your radar. And if you're not in my free Facebook group, by the way, for high school senior photographers, I'll list that in the show notes. We have about 15,000 high school senior photographers and photographers in general in there. And I am going to be doing some more lives. So one of the things that I really want to focus on this summer is popping in there more, doing some more education in there. So if you are interested in marketing and strategy and, all of those things business related, you want to definitely check us out and join that free group. Lastly, I do still have a couple of spots open for one-on-one coaching, but you want to get in touch with me ASAP because I tend to not take on as many clients as we head into summer and fall because I get really busy. So definitely reach out ASAP if that is on your radar. I will put that link. It's just renee.io/book a call. We have to hop on a call for us to see if we're a good fit to work together. And I can kind of outline everything that's included for you. And you can let me know what you're dealing with. I'll let you know if I can help. And if I can, I'll point you in a direction if I know that direction. I'm not gonna it's not a hard sell into a program, right? If it's not right for you, I will tell you. So definitely do that soon though, because I will be probably closing my coaching books at least fairly soon. Okay, let's get into this episode with Dave Conway. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. And today I am joined by Dave Conway. You guys are in for a treat. He's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I'll definitely accept any podcast that's called Tried and True with a dash of woo.
Yeah, I know that, you definitely play in that arena as well. And we're gonna dive right into that. So I just kind of want to start off with a real simple question. What event or series of events took you from $5,000 a month to $550,000 a month? What does that journey look like? Just real simple.
Well, it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. That journey started in May of 2017. And maybe a lot of your audience is familiar with this gentleman. His name was Bob Proctor. I was down at an event in Los Angeles, California called the Paradigm Shift. At the time when I bought my ticket to it, I did not know what a paradigm shift even was. I didn't even know what a paradigm was. So it's a good thing I went to learn. Yeah. So anyway, when I was down there, he kept asking everybody in the audience, like, what do you want? What do you really, really want? And, your audience could ask himself that too. What do you want? Like, what do you really, really want? What do you want to see happen? And I took my imagination off its leash for 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, at the time I was a carpenter earning $5,000 a month. And in that 5 minutes, I wrote out, I wanted to earn $100,000 a month, so 20x my income. It's a lot of money. And I wanted to move into the personal development world. And I wanted to mentor people all over the world. And I wanted to become world class at it. And I wrote that down. And that was the starting point of massive, massive shifts in my life. So it took me 31 months to go from the $5,000 to the $100,000. And over the next 2 years, then I started going over 200,000 a month, 300,000 a month. And then in 2023, we started crossing that $500,000 a month very regularly.
Amazing. So what do you think? I know it's like you said, it's a roller coaster and it's definitely a journey, and each step leads to that next step. What was it about being there, first of all, like being in that room? Like what was it about? Was it something that you just decided? Was it then habits you put in place, or did you sort of like become this different version and then the habits, you know what I mean? Like, what was that process like for you? It's always interesting to me to find
Like
out.
you're talking about the room, like like in 2017?
Yeah, that
Oh,
catalyst, right? Like, so what was it about
pain.
that?
It was painful. It was the most painful weekend of my life.
Mm,
You see, I'd actually, my whole entire life, I've always had just like a feeling. I don't see like colors or anything like that, or I don't see visions in the sense of like where my physical eye transforms things. But I've always known there was a spiritual component to life. Always just had a feeling that there was like a power, there was a God, that there was deeper. And my whole life, I've always had an ability to just read through my intuition what a person was like. And this got me in a lot of trouble at school, actually, because some of my teachers, I just was like, no, you don't got. So I got in a lot of trouble for it growing up. But I've always felt that way, except in 2018, when I was 18 years old, I ended up seeing Bob Proctor. So I'm 40 years old now, and I ended up seeing him. And I'd never heard anybody talk like that before.
Mm.
So, but I'd never been able to make the shifts with it. I'd never been able to make those changes that he was talking about. So when I went back to see him in 2017, so that was 2002, I would have saw him. So that's like 15 years later. I'd been trying to create success in my life, Renee, for those 15 years, wasn't able to do it. And what I was missing was, number one, like a serious goal. Now, a goal is more than just a want, right? So, well, what is a goal? Let's start with that. What is a goal?
Yeah.
Well, a goal is an idea that you really want. A goal is simply an idea. And it's easy to want, but you have to successfully transfer that idea into a desire. So the first thing I was missing was I didn't have a serious goal that I could make a clear mental picture of. And then the second thing that I learned on that weekend was the paradigm. So regardless of how hard a person works, if you do not change the images inside your mind, inside your consciousness, subconscious mind, it ain't never going to happen. Something will always seem to happen to set you back. And so that weekend, I made a decision, I acted on the decision, and I built a clear mental picture of the man I wanted to be. And that's what changed my life.
Yeah, I love that. And we talk about that a lot. And you said it earlier too. Like I get on calls with people all the time, and that's one of the first things I'll ask is like, what do you really want? And most people can't really answer that.
No, for
Um,
anybody, yeah, for anybody in your audience, like if anybody really is serious about knowing that, like if you don't have a clearly defined goal, your goal should be to get a goal.
mhm.
Like that's got to be the number one thing. Earl Nightingale said this. He said it'd be wise to sit down for an hour, a day, a week, even an entire month, just to find out what you really want. Must be
Yeah.
important if he's telling you to dedicate an entire month if you have to. So
Yeah,
if
because you can't go anywhere if you don't know where that is. And
no, the
so many
thoughts are,
people don't have it.
mhm. That's right. The thoughts in your mind lead you, like they guide you all the time. Whatever you think, that's what. If you're thinking about having a coffee, you'll wind up getting a coffee. Like it's really just that simple. So as you start to think bigger things, you'll start to move towards bigger things. So if anybody is struggling with that, what they can do, I give them a challenge. So for the next 14 days, grab a pen, grab a paper every morning if you can. Get up before the kids wake. So yeah, you do have to get up 10 minutes before early. And what you do is on the top of paper, just write out, what do I really want? What do I really want? And whatever comes out, just write it down. Do this consistently for 14 days, and you'll start to see repeated wants coming on the page, and then you'll get yourself a goal.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, maybe they have an idea that it'll just drop in, or like you said, like, it'll just, you're just always led. You're always led by something. So being intentional with that thought though is so key. And I've definitely seen that for myself. And even like as a partnership too, right? Like, so those of you who are married or you have a partner, I think it's also important to get clear about your own goals, but also like if you're working on something together, like if you got something that you want to work on, something, in the future that you want together, I think it's important to get some clarity around what that is for you guys as a team as well. Or if, your company, if you've got employees, if you've got things like that. And I know you coach, a lot of people. Like you've coached what, over 25,000 people over the last few
Yeah,
years. So you,
yeah, last year I spoke to 25,000 people just last year, and we've that's through the events, and then I've personally had over 1,250 high ticket clients. So these people range from 10,000 to 100,000
yeah.
investment. Yeah.
So you see the inside, the under the hood of a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs. That's fair to
Yes.
say.
And I'm telling you, it's all mental.
Hmm.
So I've personally done over 10,000 one-on-one coaching calls. And I'll tell you, you start to learn a lot about human beings that you'll never find in a book.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's all mental. It's always mental. Like our problems are always mental. Therefore, if our problems are always mental, then our solutions must also be mental. And I think as soon as
Uh-huh.
people start to wake up to that, they can change their life.
I agree. That's why I do what I do. I mean, I started with a degree in psychology and then I fell into photography and then I fell back into coaching because it was always like a first love of me of like, working with people, but in a very different way than I had, intended to years ago. But I've always been like a self-development fanatic, for lack of a
Junkie.
better word. Yeah, a
Junkie.
junkie. Yeah, exactly. Even in like the early 90s, and what I found was all these, creatives and photographers were coming to me for like business coaching and like, how do you do this and how do you do that? But it was all here. It was all mental, like the stuff that was really holding them back. I mean, I could definitely give you a blueprint, but if you're not going to like fix really what's going on up there and you know, deal with that, it won't matter. The strategy
Yep.
stuff you won't implement it. You won't do it. And so I know that, yeah, from looking at everything that you do, I know that's a really big factor. So you talk a lot about manifestation, and I do too. I would love to kind of hear from you. I guess, like, so what are some of the common misconceptions about manifestation that you encounter, and how do you
Well,
address them?
well, the first one is that it isn't real. Like,
Yeah.
what a crock of shit. Can you say that word on the?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can curse on this one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. I should ask before I say it.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Um, yeah, like some people think that it's not real. Like it's some like, a dash of woo, like woo woo or
Yeah.
whatever. Well, this is just a bunch of nonsense. Um, there's even people in the world here now too that, poo-poo like the idea of law of attraction. Um, well, what are they talking about? The law of attraction is the binding force of the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is bound through the law of attraction. It's the law of attraction is a secondary law. The law of vibration is a primary law. So whatever the nucleus of it is, there's only one form of energy. Science has already proven that. So anything that gathers around a nucleus, from a pen to your hair to your results to this lip chap to this piece of wood to the desk you're on, the computer on, it's all one energy bound through vibrations. So through the law of attraction. So yeah, one of my missions in life actually is to make manifestation logical, to
Mm-hmm.
show it from a perspective, and it works amazing, the perspective that I share, that it's so obvious that all we do all day long is manifest. So everything starts like, so there's a creative process to everything in life. So it all starts with the no thing. So you've got this no thing. You call it space, higher power, spirit, whatever it is you want to call it, Holy Spirit, God, anything you want to call it. But what we need to understand about it, that it's not formed. So Albert Einstein said that matter is perpetually expanding into nothing, which is kind of like your reasoning mind can't compute that actually. Like we actually can't compute it. So the human mind can only compute in the third dimension, which is
Mm-hmm.
length times width times height. The fourth dimension being time. So anything above the third dimension, the human mind can't process. That's why we talk in stories, metaphors, examples, analogies. We show images to each other. That's because those are all, we can understand that through the 3D. So when we start to understand that there's a no thing, this no thing moves into the imagination of a human being. Any idea that's accepted through the imagination will then move into the subconscious mind of the human being. Once it's in the subconscious mind, it'll alter the behavior. That person will then release a force, attractive force, and everything will start to move into it. So what people want to understand, how to create different results, is it all starts with building a new image. This is the most important thing. Like if you were to ask me, what's the most important lesson you've ever learned from all your mentors? Building an image building, become an image builder, because that's where it all starts. Because once that image is impressed onto the sub, everything will start to change.
Yeah. So it's about becoming a different version of yourself over and over again.
Yes. So at the events, like we've got, we do a fair bit of events all over North America, and we're heading to Las Vegas next Sunday.
Oh,
No, the day after Easter, Monday. Okay, Monday. Yeah, and we're going to Las Vegas for a week for an event. We're hosting an event there, manifestation event, And at that event, I will be getting everybody on the second night to, when we take them out for dinner, they are going to have a wake for the person that arrived on the event on day one. So we just say a silent prayer for that person. God bless them, but, TTYN, talk to
Mm-hmm.
you never. They got to go. So true manifestation is manifesting a new version of yourself. The only reason that a person would ever get a goal is because if you're ever going to change, you need something worth changing for. So you get your goal solidified. Once you get your goal solidified, you say, who's the man, woman, or person that is naturally producing that result? You see, what people have to understand is that there is a version of you that already exists inside of you that will naturally produce that result,
Mm-hmm.
that'll naturally do it. So I used to work a hell of a lot harder earning $5,000 a month than I do currently earning $500,000 a month, like way harder. Why? I had to change my belief system. I had to manifest a new belief system by design, by design. It's amazing. Like I could talk about it all day.
I know, and I love it. This is like so my jam. And stuff that I talk about all the time as well and like implement in my own life and have over, the course of many, many years. I've seen it personally and also obviously with clients of mine. And so I love that sort of like melding, like you said, the logical, making this manifestation, a logical thing, because a lot of people do have this connotation about it that it's inaccessible, it doesn't exist, whatever. But to that, I say, first of all, too, this whole thing, like, how do you think this even, like, we're literally on a floating rock? Like, what? Like, none of this is real. Like, none of
No.
this is as big as we think it is, right? Like, our perception is really what determines the reality that we're in. And so, why not? Why not be a little delusional about what you want in life? But
Yes.
so many people are held bound by the 3D. So when you encounter that, and I guess like by the time someone comes to your event, though, right? Like if they're going to your events, they are already, like on board with this idea, let's say, right? Like they want to understand it better. They want to at least have some tools, all of that. And, you know, that's wonderful because when someone wants it, that's like that sweet spot I find. What I see a lot too in my communities is people who really are open. And I say, like, if you are drawn to it, if you're hearing this, like, there's a reason for it. I'm a big believer in that. Like, you're meant to hear and you're meant to, like, things are going to be presented to you if it's meant for you. But then they meet with this resistance, right? So when you come across people like that who are very much like, yes, this sounds like a phenomenal idea, right? And I can get on board with this. But, and then there's always their but. Like, what do you find helps move people through that resistance to it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's like a couple things. The first is at all the events, I would challenge the idea of that they're already into it. So the people that come, they're into the idea of earning $100,000 or $1 million a month or 10 million, whatever their goal is. They're into that idea. It's the same idea around like, sure, I'm into the idea of looking like a Greek god. Like I'd love, like have an 8-pack and whatever the hell. Like I'm into that idea. That's a great idea. Sign me up. But then when I have to find out that I need to change, it's like, oh, okay, well, hang on a second. Like, very, very different story, really different story. So this is almost like a sales question in a way, isn't it? That you're kind of
Mm.
in a strange way that you're like,
Well, it's all related,
it is,
like
yeah.
honestly, it is.
Yeah, exactly. So I said at the last event to my top coach there, Wendini. I call her name's Wendy, but I call her Wendini because she is magic.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, she's brilliant. And anyway, Wendy, I said, Wendy, when we started, I said, Wendy, how many people know what they're signing up for? And she's like, none.
Hmm.
None of them actually know. You see, everybody wants more. But when you start to learn a process, it's like, oh, actually changing, it's a very different story. Very different story. So how do I deal with a person? Are you saying how do you deal with a person that's kind
The
of push
resistance.
pushing
Yeah, like
back.
how to move back, well, basically move through their resistance, like what would that sort of look like? And obviously it'll look like different things for different people. But I usually see that resistance as that unconscious programming, right? It rears up because it's
Yeah.
like, we've all been programmed against our will as kids. And then
Yes.
when we do try and make these changes, because it is a change, and it's natural for that unconscious part of your brain to pop up and go, oh, no, 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 no. This is not what we do to stay safe. This is not what we do to stay alive. Like,
Yeah.
this is dangerous, right? So like it's that perceived danger. Um, and I feel like there's a lot of different ways people can move through that. What do you feel like is really effective for people to do to work through
Well,
that?
the first thing is like don't resist anything. So if I was like, for example, let's say like I was speaking with you today, or I was speaking to on a sales call or a coaching call or any human being at all. um, don't resist anything. Okay, because what you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to force something out of your life, you have to let something out of your life. So I don't know if maybe some of your viewers won't be watching this on video, but right now what I'm doing is I'm holding a piece of wood in my right hand above my head, and then below around chest height, I've got my left hand. So if I want to move this from here to here, all I need to do is let go. Okay, this is called gravity. All right. So once you let go of something, you'll instantly make a space for that something. So when you're communicating with people, the key is you have to get them into their imagination. You have to move them into their imagination so that they consent to a new idea. So it's not about like, oh, I don't have to do that. Okay. No, you just have to consent to something different. So you don't have to force anything on anyone. You don't have to cross a line. They're not allowed to come over your line. You're not allowed to go over their line. But it's more about don't resist anything. Don't resist your own growth. Don't resist your own growth. When somebody else maybe is not enjoying your presence or not enjoying the words that you're saying, understand that that's really not them. Like every time you meet a person, understand that you're not meeting a person. What you're meeting is a conditioned mind.
Mm-hmm.
In behind that person, almost imagine a fence. In behind that person, in behind that conditioned mind, over that fence, there's a spiritual being. And that spiritual being is wired up to do one thing and one thing only: to expand, to grow. That's all it wants to do. You can learn a lot from nature. You can learn a lot from observing the universe. It's in a perpetual state of multiplication and expansion. If a human being, we're a part of the universe, therefore we must obey the same laws. So don't take anything personal. When you meet a person, you're meeting a conditioned mind. You have to get over that mind and get into their heart. Once you get into their heart, you'll find that the fence just drops down.
Yeah. Tuning into that heart center is really powerful, I have found. And they always kind of say like gratefulness is the gateway to that. Like if you're having a hard time accessing that version, to try and at least put yourself in a place of service or place of gratefulness, and that could be like a stepping stone to that larger part of it,
Yeah.
because it kind of opens up that frequency a little bit. Do you find that too?
Well, it doesn't just open up the frequency. They go to the frequency.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you have to find out what's the motive behind this person. Are they financially motivated? Are they love motivated? Are they currently self-preservation? Does the idea of power and fame motivate them? Like if you don't think power and fame is a huge motivator for the large majority of the earth, then just go on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and you'll find that it's a serious motive of people.
Yeah.
Is it fear? Is it liberty? Is it freedom that they're after? So the more you understand about people, I found that the more I understand about me, the more I understand about you. Because yeah, sure, like I might be a man, you might be a woman, and I might have brown hair and you might have blonde hair, and I might have brown eyes, you might have blue eyes. But inside we're actually all the same. We're all
Hmm.
governed by one law, which is the law of growth. So find
Yeah.
that growth part of them. And if you're trying to force your way in, they'll reject you. They'll reject you.
Hmm.
Become curious, invite them across it, and bring them, fascinate them, make them curious about themselves.
Yeah. Curiosity. I love that. Just kind of getting curious just in general and asking the right questions. to yourself daily, that could be a
every
really
day.
powerful. So as far as that goes, like, are you really big into um, all these habits, right? So we hear a lot about that. We hear a lot about like, okay, shifting the mindset, stepping into this other version of yourself, this, that energetically exists and aligning with that. Um, do you believe that there has to be a lot of structure and habits around that, or can it be easier?
Oh, it can be way easier. Just get yourself an obsession. You get yourself an obsession, you don't got to really form that many habits at all.
hmm
Like there's only four core habits to become financially free. Always have a goal to be multiplying your income, however much you earn. Always have a goal that you're saving, how much you want to save through a period of time that you can save or invest. Always have a goal to be giving at all times, be building yourself into the person that donates X amount of dollars. And then the fourth is reduce your debt. So taxes or debt. So there's your fourth financially free habits. Well, there you go. Now everybody knows, but what's the motive behind it? Who's the person going to produce it? What are you going to do with the information? Who's going to guide you? I had a mentor say once in my early 20s, he said, Dave, the mind is a scary place. Don't go in alone. Everybody needs a Sherpa. And he said, especially you need one because you're in rough shape. Yeah. So as we start to grasp the idea that we can change, that there's a simple process to change, and that we're not the ones that have to change. So I'm going to reword that. Okay. This is a bit advanced mindset. This more advanced mindset here. Um, there's a power that grows the tree. The tree does not grow itself. There's a power that grows the grass. There's a power that's keeping your butt in your chair if you're sitting in a chair. There's a power that's keeping the ceiling above in your current room that you're in. There's a power that the sun sets and rises. You see, nature has no effort. It appears effortless. When you start to embody the images of the new identity of the person that you would like to be, you will find that there is a power that will come to your aid that will naturally give you a state known as grace. Our problem is always in the resistance. It's in the attachment. Once you start to let go, you'll find that this power will take over your imagination. It'll take over your health. It'll take over the whole thing. Our only job as human beings is to form clear mental pictures. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all we do. I have clients that go from 10 grand a month to 500,000. I have clients go from 200 grand a month. 3 months later, they're earning 400 grand a month, all through image building. Like there's a power that grows the tree. So start to ask yourself, what's the difference between me and the tree? Well, the only
hmm
difference is that you can choose what you become. The tree is not allowed to choose. But I'll tell you here and now, the exact same laws that grow the tree are the exact same laws that'll expand your life.
Yeah.
Religious people say giving your will over to God. That's what it is.
Yeah. And that is so difficult for people, I find too, right? Like, so I always say, like, life is just like a series of letting go, right? And it's pretty much the key to kind of everything is
Mhm.
letting go of all kinds of things, whether it's that old version of yourself, control. We have that need for certainty as humans. Like we really want to know that that's going to happen. And then, like you said, we spend a lot of time up here, which is not the best. And as creatives, I find too, if you have an extra spicy brain and you tend to have a very active, let's say, brain with lots of imagination, well, that can be a superpower, but left unchecked,
Weak
it
will.
could be your detriment,
Yeah, I
you
had a
know?
client. Yeah, I had a client once that had a very, very, let's say like I don't know, developed imagination. I don't know if he consciously developed it or not, but he had a stimulated imagination. Hey, it was active, an active one. That's the word. He had an active imagination. And when he started working with me, I said, wow, I said, you really have a great imagination. I said, but your will is very weak. Like your willpower is very, very poor. I said, you gotta tighten up your focus, your concentration. I said, and if you don't, you'll suffer. And he was going to start a new world, and he went off, and after a week he got rejected 3 times, came back, was furious with me, and he said, hey, I want a refund for this. I said, no, I'm not giving you a refund. I was like, I told you what we had to do. I said, I will work with you. I said, we'll develop your will. Just refused. He thought that just having the idea was enough. It's not
Mm-hmm.
enough. You need to embody it. So I find that most people, like how my problem was, I was too busy being me. And if I was too busy being me, I had to change that to getting busy to being the person that I want to be. And it's just a day at a time practice. It's very, very simple to become rich.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. It's very simple to become happy too.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I believe that 100%. But it is really that practice. It's like you said, like that practice of continuously releasing and letting go of that so that you do make more room for that expansion. Um, indirectly, like let's talk for a second about sales, right?
Okay.
And put it into some, I guess, 3D sort of context for people, right? Because, the more I always say, and I always believe that, your business is definitely a reflection of how you feel, what's going on inside. And so even if you can have the best intentions, that's why a lot of people, like you were talking about before, I believe a lot of people have years of being on like a self-development journey or trying to better their lives or whatever they want to call it. And they just kind of keep hitting up against a wall or a ceiling because
Mhm.
they're not embodying it, right? They're not like letting go of that because it is like a saying goodbye and like a death, like you said,
Oh
of
yeah, rest in peace.
mm-hmm. And moving through that is super scary for a lot of people. But in terms of sales, I find that sometimes it's almost easier because it's motivated by money, probably, right? Is that people are able to come in through that lens of, well, I do want to make more money and I want to learn how to be better at selling. And I always tell creatives too, like because a lot of photographers, a lot of creatives will fall into what we do by accident because they're good at it. They make it look easy, whatever. And then they sort of just fall into it. And then before they know it, they're like, oh, I actually have to know how to run a business if I, want to make money at this. And that's their catalyst to realize that this is sales. This is sales. And there's this, slimy connotation about sales that a lot of people have this like programming about. So through that lens, they're able to at least approach it. And I think that you touched on that a little bit too, when you said like people come to the events like, yeah, it's yes, I want to make more money or I want to have a better
Mm.
business or whatever. But it's the catalyst that actually gets them in there to make the change. So in terms of sales, what do you think? And I mean, I know what I would say, but what do you feel is one of the most important um, tools of mindset or a manifestation that comes into practice with that sales process? Like what do you think really holds the lever, I guess?
Mm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Are we like when you're having a conversation with somebody, or just like shifting a belief around it, or?
Yeah, well, I've kind of both, I guess, because first they have to kind of shift a belief within themselves to make that shift
Hmm.
to sell. Because a lot of people have that programming, like I said, of
Well, everybody.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has
We
some
all
kind of
have,
programming, but a lot
everybody
of people
does.
have a programming that sales is bad. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or sales is gross, whatever. Um, and so they feel very guilty. This is something I see a lot. They feel very
Mm.
guilty about charging people, even like what they know they need to be charging. They feel guilty about it. So in that respect, what would you where would you go with that?
I just did a seminar in Toronto 2 weeks ago called Money and Guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and it sold out in 3 days. Boom, like that. All women.
Oh yeah.
Not a
That's what I was
not a
going to
single
say. Do
man
you
came.
find that it's mostly men? I mean, mostly women because that's what I see in
Oh
my
yes.
communities. Yes.
Yeah, my client base is about 85% women too, not by
Mm-hmm.
design, by just wow, interesting. That's what's happening. All right, so what we got to understand is that that perception is not um, it's not like unvalidated. It's a pretty valid perception because most salespeople they're amateurs. Okay, they're terrible, and they don't understand the basic laws of human contact, where every human being on the planet wants to be left with the impression of increase. So like everybody wants to be around people that are going to facilitate their expression. Nobody wants to be taken from. So everyone wants to be given to and served, but no one wants to be taken from, right? That's why we got locks on our cars and locks on our doors. Why? To protect our stuff. So everyone has an automatic self-preservation mechanism to protect. And there's just too many sales process encounters with amateurs that validate that it's an icky or a gross thing. So if you've got that a part of your paradigm, now not everybody does, but the large majority of people do. So if you understand that, then let's say I'm going to throw a number out there. This isn't an accurate number. I don't have any like data or anything behind it. Let's say 85% of people in the world have that paradigm that sales is icky. So the chances of you coming out of that grouping of people, well, it's 85 out of 100 that you've got it. If you want to make it, you have to reconcile that. So what we want to understand is that sales isn't doing something to someone, sales is doing something for someone. So what you want to do is you want to create an environment that is conducive to the unfoldment of a desire. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. You have to learn how to create an environment that is conducive to the unfoldment of a desire. Because every sale you've ever made and every sale you ever will make has all went through from the imagination into a desire that person has purchased because desire controls the movement of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you understand that your job is just to facilitate desires, and the better you get at framing up a conversation or an environment where that person is allowed to go to take themselves to the next level. Because this is the truth. You don't sell anyone anything. What you do is you facilitate that person expressing their desires with and through you. That's all that we do. So even the idea, oh, I sold that person. Okay, fine, that's fine. If you don't want to look any deeper. But the truth is you didn't. What you did is you facilitated a desire. So if someone comes to you and they want something, yet they're afraid to act on it, well, it's the salesperson's job to help that person overcome that fear. It's actually the salesperson's job to help that individual overcome the objection because it's the objection that's going to rob the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does. The objections all stem from the paradigm or the current reality. Your current reality stems from your paradigm. So we got to go back over that fence, get into their heart, and say, hey, it's okay. You can do this. And there's all kinds of techniques for that. When I discovered, can I share a story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I have two sales stories that changed my life. So I started doing this professionally in 2017, and I'll never forget this. It was November 30th, 2017. I did my first ever talk. That day, I installed a kitchen and made $400. So I used to make $50 an hour as a carpenter. And that night, I did a 90-minute talk and I made $20,000. And my God, did that ever change my perception? I was like, what? Like that just, okay, hang on. That just don't happen. But I liked it. And I was like, I'm going to keep doing these things. So I booked that room every day, everything was the last Thursday of every month for a year. And I started doing these talks at the last Thursday of every month for a year. And there's this lady who used to kept coming. Her name was Robin. And Robin would always come up to me like, oh, that was great and wonderful. And then she would leave, never purchasing like the mentorship. And it was the fifth time that Robin came, and she came up to me, and I just said, oh my God, I'm not talking to this woman. So I was just like, there was a sales lesson in here. I just didn't fully get it. I said, I put my hand out and I said, Robin, I'm not talking to you. You've been here 5 times now. Are you in or are you out? Now, I wasn't talking about necessarily in or out with me. Are you in or out with you? Because you just keep saying the same things over and over to me. And I don't have to give you my life. I've got a wife. I've got family. I've got people that want to be around here, not just people that want to just hang out at the side of the pool, right? So she said, I'm in. Now, that was a huge awareness that I didn't realize at the time, that if you just demand a decision, you'll get a decision. If you permit indecision, you will receive indecision. You are not helping the person. Get them to make a decision, yes or no. Yes or no. Or if I'm not sure, okay, what do you need to know to get it to a yes? So anyway, Robin came into the mentorship 10 weeks in. She said her life had changed more in 10 weeks than it had in 20 years. On the 11th week, she called me up. She was just stressed out. She's like, hey, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. And she said, I just bought this package. Now, at the time, my mentorship was $5,000. So it took me 5 months to sell a $5,000 package. She bought a package from a woman online, $20,000 in 30 minutes. And when she told me this, I thought to myself, a lot of ignorant people would be like jealous or whatever. Oh, why'd you do that? No, first thing I thought was, what the hell does that lady know that I didn't know? I decided at that moment, and Earl Nightingale said this, I just never understood it. He said, your success in life is dependent upon your ability to sell. I dedicated the next 3 years of my life to selling. That's all I read. That's all I visualized. That's all I did. All I did was listen to sales recordings. I'd listen to my own. I'd find friends. I started a sales mastermind where other salespeople, we'd get on, we would share ideas. I was researching Mr. Beast yesterday, just kind of learned about this guy. He did the same thing for 3 years. People don't know this. People just think that people just get the success. He's been at it since he was 11. Almost a decade of insane levels of focus, insane levels. So that's when I dedicated my life to becoming a salesperson. My income, that's when I crossed my first 100 grand. Or sorry, my 100 grand month. But that's when I crossed $1.4 million in under 3 years from just learning how to sell. Now, another huge lesson in my sales journey was this. I did this call with this lady, and I also think the universe made it that this was her name. It was Carmen Diaz, not Cameron Diaz. That would have been sweet, though. It was Carmen Diaz. And I knew within a second, once Carmen Diaz came on the line, that she didn't have any money. Now, I'd already scheduled Carmen 30 minutes. And so my paradigm instantly said, just let's get this call done in 10 minutes and let's just get out of here. And that was my original attitude. And this voice, I swear to God, this voice went off in my head, and it was like, this call is not for you. It's for her. Now, I've shared this story where a couple times I've teared up after because it changed my life so much. You see, prior to that moment, my biggest mistake was I would reflect the attitude of the person I was speaking to. Or I would reflect the ability or the potential or the capacity of the person I was speaking to. So I was only ever speaking to the paradigm. I was never speaking to the soul. That day, I made a committed decision that every person I would meet from then on in, I would give them a 10 out of 10. So let's say Carmen Diaz's life was, let's just say, a 2 out of 10. I was instantly going to reflect a 2 out of 10 to her. Right? If someone gets angry at you, we can tend to get angry at them. We tend to treat people the way that we're treated by them. So I started taking the high road on everything, 10 out of 10. Within 8 months, I earned $1.4 million after I started doing that. Start to talk to the higher level, but you got to be courageous. You got to be courageous because that paradigm don't want to let you in. Does not want to let you in. Had this one gentleman once too. Now you got me on the sales stuff. Had this one gentleman once. Yeah, I had this one gentleman once too, who came on the call and he's like, I don't buy on the first call. And I said, oh, I said, that's okay. I said, well, today could be your first.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I just conditioned the mind, and then I was his first.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot too. It's fine with photographers. Um, and that was a really great explanation, a visual, if you will, for a lot of people if they needed that to, looking through that lens of sales as service. I mean, that's really what it means, is to really guide them to that desire. They already, and this is what I tell photographers all the time, like, people came to you for a service. They came to you because they were attracted to your work. They think you do a good job. Like, you have already, like, by that point of someone booking with you, they've been sold into this desire. Like, you've been able to do that. So you need to finish that process with them, not leave them hanging on the other side of that, because that is a disservice. You're not actually, finishing the true culmination of that, right? So a lot of service providers or photographers, let's say, like, who are selling products and services and not just like digital images, that's where it gets a little clunky for them, because they're like, that whole guilt comes in. So I love that you are speaking to that, because I feel like that is of the utmost importance, especially with women. And it could have a lot to do with the way that we as women are programmed. I mean, I could definitely go down that rabbit hole. There's a lot to say about that, but it's not doing anyone any good. And it's certainly not doing you any good if you are continuing to, carry that. But if someone is coming to you for a service, that alone is the catalyst for you to want to finish that process and to guide them through that. Sales used to be one of those things that made me want to throw up. Like, literally, that was the thing for me. Like, I didn't even realize I had issues with this until I was put into a situation where I had to, right, quote unquote, had to sell in order to make a living at what I loved to do. And it brought up all of these triggers. And I find that most people, when that comes up, they just sort of run away from it instead of dealing with it. But I knew that I needed to, and I wanted to let that go. I was like, this is obviously showing up because I got, this is not
you
serving
wanted
me.
to let it go, right?
Yeah, this is not serving me. And I also really wanted to serve my clients better. I wanted them to have an amazing end result of this experience of working with me, and handing over some digital images ain't going to cut it. Like, I wanted them to walk away with beautiful artwork and feel really good, right, about that. So I had to do that work on myself. I had to look at all of that and had that desire to change. And now sales is like my favorite part of what I do. Like, it is so completely, vastly different than what I had perceived it to be in the past. And I love as many conversations as we can have about this for people, because I feel like there's still a lot of taboo around it, but I want people to understand how amazing it can be when you are in that place and you are coming from a heart-centered approach. You're, like you said, 10 out of 10, you're showing up. You're showing up to your highest good, right? Like, you are stepping into your highest potential and in alignment. And like, nothing bad can come from that, because it's energy at that point, right? And it's not even just for you. So
Well,
you don't
yeah,
even
if you
know
can remove
sometimes.
yourself from the equation completely, everyone will be better
Exactly.
off. That's the problem with mankind in general. Everyone's just trying to get. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
obsessed with getting. People want to get so they can get. I want to get this so I can get that. What we got to start to learn how to recondition the mind to learn how to give so you can give.
Exactly. I tell that to people too. It's like, they have all these problems, like these obstacles, right, of raising their prices. And I was like, well, if you really want to truly be of service, like, the way this is a path to that too, because when you are making more money, you can give things away. You can be of more service. You can then step into that other person centeredness. And it really needs to be that. It's not about you. None of this. right?
No, like even your goals, like if you go back to the financial freedom goals, like I said, number one, have a goal to increase your income. Number two, have a goal of saving and investing. Number three, have a goal that amount you want to give. And number four is, eliminate debt or reduce your debt. Um, well, last year, I'm just doing my taxes right now.
Hmm.
Um, I donated 5 times more money than I used to earn.
Yep.
You see, so we have to learn how to freely give and graciously receive. And a lot of the ladies, they're pretty good at the giving part, but the receiving part
Oh, yeah.
their consciousness has to change a little bit in that. Like you want to get comfortable. You got to get comfortable with these ideas. Like if we were going to talk about habits, the number one habit for success is that failures don't like to do. Successful people form the habit that failures don't like to do. I'll repeat that. Successful people have formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And the biggest thing that people do not like to do, they do not like to talk to others about a subject that other does not want to talk about.
Hmm.
That's what they do. That's the number one thing. So it's the fear of criticism. It's like failures don't want to talk to others about a subject that other person might not want to talk about. And if you think I'm wrong, just look at how many men and women go to bed every single night and with an elephant in a room for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they just don't want to mention the thing.
Hmm.
Everyone wants to brush it under the rug.
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, I think that Tony Robbins talks about this a lot too. People do more to avoid pain than seek pleasure. And
100%.
that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, they'd rather die than to address it. It's like, well, Jesus Christ said it a couple thousand years ago. He said, "Know the truth, and the truth shall set you free."
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. So that's a really great point. And I think that we can start to wrap up on that because I could keep you here all day talking about this kind of stuff. But I hope that you guys like hear a lot of the points that we talked about, but that one is really powerful. Like the fear of being perceived, of being criticized, of being judged, it's really keeping you the same and stuck. And if you desire something different, you really do have to be someone different who
Yeah,
doesn't adhere
if
to
they're
that.
not exactly if people aren't gossiping about you and people aren't judging you, you're just not doing it right.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
playing small. Okay, you're playing small. You're not sticking out.
Exactly. Be the
Yeah,
purple cow, like Seth Godin always talks
that's
about.
right.
You
Stick
got to
out.
be willing to be
Just
different.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I loved all of this. Like I said, I could definitely go deep into all of this. And so this was really fun to pick your brain. Thank you for sharing all of that with us today.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay, so what are you guys walking away with? I want to hear your takeaways, obviously. I can't wait to hear what you thought about this episode, if this helped shift anything for you. I think some of the takeaways are goals are important. You've got to know what you want. You got to have some clarity. And a really great way to get into the practice of knowing what you want is to commit to 14 days of writing that down every single day and allowing what comes in to become more clear over time. But you've got to have clarity on that. Without it, it's going to be really hard to even know where you're going. Another takeaway is that we need to be willing to let go and release this past version of ourselves if we want to become this new version. So, yeah, have the clarity and also be willing to let go of this old version of you. And then a really important takeaway that I hope a lot of you guys ponder and take to heart is the sales portion of this and how soul centered and other person centered it really needs to be in order for many things to happen. But for you to really feel good about what you do. And I always talk about that too, that the whole purpose of all of this is to feel good. Abraham Hicks talks about that a lot, and I really think that in sales, it is 100% possible to feel good. There's no reason for you to be feeling guilty. If you are feeling guilty, it's programming, it's coming up, so that you can address it and move through it. And that is the biggest step, is to actually be willing to have an uncomfortable conversation, even with yourself, about that. Because this whole fear of being perceived, criticized, spoken about poorly, it's keeping you stuck. And if you desire more for your life and for your family, you do need to be willing to let that attachment go, because it is an attachment. So I would love to, like I said, hear your thoughts on that. I hope this kind of opens your mind a little bit and maybe allow some other awesome things to drop in. And if you are a creative or a photographer and it is time for you to make some changes and you are ready, get on a call with me. Let's chat. Let's talk about how you can leave that version of yourself behind. Let's talk about what that looks like for you in the future. Get some clarity on what it is you actually truly desire. When was the last time you even allowed yourself to think about that? I'd love to help. All the info on how to reach out, book a call, it's in the show notes, so you know what to do. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys next week.